Now, hello everybody, and welcome to, what is this, episode 13
I believe so.
of D&D Acquisitions Incorporated recap episode, with me, Noble, as Bulgan Stormbringer.
And me, as Aura. Hello, everybody.
Glad to have you with us again.
No problem.
Alright, so, I guess the first thing to do is get started with things for those who didn't have time to watch the entire episode or just wanted to have a recap of the particulars that we found out. There were a lot of things that seemed to happen that either we didn't remember or, I guess helped out with lore and stuff, or changed lore as we thought we knew it. But I guess we'll start by discussing who will do the church recon mission.
Yes, so if you recall from the prior episode, we left off as finding that perhaps getting more information about the church would be important, and to see if we could find any sort of information at all with that. So we talked of splitting the party because all four of us going in there would probably draw too much attention. So Riffin and Jules decided to go to the church and figure that out, while Aura and Bolgan decided to look into this sleeping giant tavern that we had never gone into since entering the town.
Originally, I thought there was only one tavern, which was the place we were staying at. Because, we weren't really introduced to the other half of the town, just, towards the entrance. So it's kind of nice to know there was more than one place.
Yes, so...
I was going to wear my fancy beer tie, but I was talked out of it because, dress code, I guess, was a bit of an issue.
So, Riffin and Jules start to head to the church. Aura heads with Bolgan to the tavern, and while they're walking, she takes his arm, and apparently he starts having minor reactions to that and tries to stay calm while they go to the tavern. And after that little bit of, just flavor text, as it were, we focus on Riffin and Jules at the church.
Yeah, so Riffin first approaches and knocks on the front door of the church. As one would expect, there was no answer, because generally churches are a walk-in and then find out if anybody's in their kind of environment. But, so they managed to get inside the church, and the sermon was in session. So the two decide to sit and wait. And, let's see, about... Would you say the sermon was over, or would you say the sermon was almost over when they approached him?
I would say it was somewhere between almost over to being over. I think Dan said that the sermon ended, and then the sister walked up to them.
Okay. Yeah, so the sisters approached and were asking them if there was anything they needed. And that's when Riffin explains that about his curse situation. I don't think he mentioned that it was a naked man that gave it to him. They might have sent him to a doctor if that was the case.
He didn't explain it specifically to the sister. No.
Yeah. But basically they hit him with a I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit there. I'll pull back a little bit.
He does tell the matron whenever she comes up, because she asks him, it's like, well, what have you been doing lately? And he explains that he gave money to a poor naked man on the road. And she is trying to understand. It's like, that seems weird to be cursed for that, but okay. And so they're talking. Jules is listening and trying to note if there's any suspicious behavior that happens. Doesn't seem to pick up on anything. And then, if you want to go over the thing that you were about to talk about.
Yeah, I realized I was skipping ahead. I was like, I better shut up. I lost my place. But yeah, hit him with a whopping 400 gold to remove the curse. I mean, goodness. Might as well buy a new party member for that much. I play too much Darkest Dungeon. Anyway, we have 400 gold to remove the curse. And they told him, they could give him a discount of like half off for investigating a livestock issue that the town's having. Which to me seemed more like they were trying to just get rid of him. I mean, 400 gold to get rid of a curse and then tell you, oh, hey, there's something going on outside of town. Like, I almost feel like this whole thing should have been in some country voice, but like, listen, you want your automobile fixed? That'll be $50,000 to fix that problem right there with that oil pan. And you know what? I could give you a discount if you get out of town. You put the country voice on there, it feels a little bit more like that's what's going on with the situation.
Yeah, I would say let's discuss our personal thoughts on that matter after we get through with the PowerPoint.
Yeah, so it's a huge price, though.
Yes. After that information and them getting that, we cut back over to the bar where Aura and Bolgan are going in, and the outside of the bar looked, well, ramshackle. It looked, I remember that much, that it wasn't in 100%, but we go in and there's some humans and a dwarf patron in the miner's uniform wear of the Lion Shield. If I remember, if Dan, it was Lion something, and I think it was Lion Shield.
I believe it was.
And there's 6 people in there, if you include the bartender. The bartender was a lovely female dwarf with red hair, about middle age or later years, old enough to be apparently Bolgan's mom, called Grista Kettlecup.
This does bring up the thing that everyone who's running town stuff has been female so far, except for the mayor.
I think that might just be pure coincidence.
I just think it's, the survivors of the incident 5 years ago, personally. But
that too, but we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
So Aura buys around to the bar to hopefully to help with having these people give us information. And we try to talk about the information, the recent issues that have happened, and I don't want to say we're stonewalled, but it feels like we don't really get much of anything of current matters. We are directed to, well, the town's council hall might have more info on the issues, but we do learn about things from 5 years ago that happened because Miss Grista was nice enough to tell us that, oh, that fire on the manor, that's nothing. We've seen stuff like that from 5 years ago. And yeah, so between her and the patrons, we learn a little something.
Yeah. Apparently, the manor and the bar were both owned and operated by the Red Bandits, for starters.
It was this group that came in and kind of ran the town for a little bit.
Good old classic bandit control. But it would explain why the underground had that little secret area. Chances are the Red Bandit dudes were the ones who had probably installed that in the mansion. But apparently that's all part of a separate module, so if you hadn't played it, I guess you don't know what really happened. But yeah, I mean, when it came to the Red Bandits, they apparently were running the town to a certain degree, and we found out that through a little bit of exposition, as well as looking back at what some of the people had said in the previous episode, that things are a little better off for some of the workers there when it came to how much money they were bringing in. So it sounds like the Red Bandits might have been looking after their workers a little bit better than the current administration was.
Yeah, we did find out that the miners were paid better when the bandits were around versus now. The bandits were taken out, apparently, by a random adventure group, which, from what I've gathered, and it might not be the case, but it sounded like the case that, from what information we had, the original Golden Mongoose, which apparently aren't the Golden Mongoose from current times, as the Golden Mongoose from current times are actually tied in and connected in the sense of like under affiliation or something like that with Acquisitions Inc. And they kept the name, I guess, to pay homage to the originals.
Yeah. So that I guess is supposed to explain why they were inside the mansion when it burned down, because I was under the impression originally that they were like the original group, some night group. So I was kind of wondering why they were in the mansion, but
We do know they had association with each other, but we didn't necessarily have the full extent of how the association was going.
After that, we bought rounds for the rest of the people in town, or that were in the bar, that is, and headed out on our way. My character took a rag and doused it in some alcohol, just because if he needed an alibi for anything, he could fake being severely drunk with the additional smell of alcohol on him. So that was a little more flavor text, but
we meet up to share this information and discuss our next plan of motion. And Riffin and Jules, we decided, were probably the better equipped to go to the town hall archive and see if they could get any more information. Mostly because Jules seems to be an avid reader of multiple things. And Riffin, I don't know, I just get this sense that his character is good at getting information. Meanwhile, in order to get a little bit more about the church, Aura and Bolgan decide to it's going to sound bad, case the back of the church to see if there's any to see if there's any back doors or windows or things of that nature. That way, if we were to try to go in there at a different time, that, you know, we could go in there a little bit more stealthily. In order to do this without being too suspicious, we decide to pretend that Bolgan has had a little bit too much to drink and we are getting some air and I'm helping him to walk around.
Yeah, so if anybody approached us, the rag would give me a nice little alcohol in the air scent, while at the same time I could be faking the problems with mixing alcohol.
Meanwhile,
and we could lean on doors and windows and stuff.
Meanwhile, back at the archives.
I've gone lost my place.
Number 15.
15, there we go. Okay, thank you. The ex-mayor is at his desk at the archives. I actually had stepped out when this had happened, but I was informed when I got back. Riffin tries to sweet-talk him to gain access to the info on the third councilman, who turns out to be our, I don't want to say crazy.
Eccentric?
Eccentrically forgetful, I guess we could go with. Old man who was once a Griffin rider. The man who could not remember who the third leader of the town was. So it turned out that some years back, a man called the Black Spider, the church was... Did I skip something?
Yeah, so... No, you didn't. You didn't. It's a lot of info that they gained. A little bit about the guy from, the third councilman, and a few other things. A few years back, he was captured, as well as some other man who I don't think we have information on that guy, by this group that was led by the Black Spider. Things potentially went down, and he ended up as he is currently.
So maybe a little PTSD, a little bit of maybe magic or blunt force memory loss, since he couldn't remember that he was in charge, which brings up a lot of questions, but we'll get to later.
Yes. They also found out that the church, it's less found out and more reaffirm, I believe, because I think we've talked about this before, where we knew that the church was financed by someone, but we didn't have actual proof.
Because I think at the time it was the elf lady at the other church had told us that the other group had financed the new church's arrival.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how we got the information, but we somehow acquired something similar. The church was financed by someone who is just listed as D on the paperwork, which the mayor, or excuse me, ex-mayor, has no idea how this got into, approved and put here, because apparently they need to discuss it before things like this happen, and he didn't approve it. And as far as I'm aware, the person from Acquisitions Inc. would not approve it. So that only leaves the guy who has some sort of memory issues.
Yeah.
And yes.
The going theory is that the D is part of the other group, the Drawn group, but
Yes.
there's no 100% proof on that. And being that Drawn is the opposing force to Acquisition Incorporated, brings up the good question of, we almost certainly know if it was Drawn that they would not approve of this place to begin with. That'd be like McDonald's offering Burger King a place next door on their own lot, you know?
I mean, to be fair, I've seen plenty of McDonald's right next to Burger King's, but that's neither of them owning
Yeah.
the land. They're renting.
Exactly.
So who knows? This land, this city apparently is owned by the mayor, but we'll go into that later. They also find out a little bit more about the livestock issue, which started before the fire and destruction of the mansion, which we already surmised that it's probably a camp who set up and caused this anyway. So that's just reaffirming what we thought. And apparently, since this was the mayor owned the mansion, he owned that manor or whatever you want to call it. And apparently there's only one way up to that manor, except that can't be right, because we've noticed, based on our experience and apparently what happened there has to be another way. So there might be another way up to get there stealthily, but there was no man-made pathway beyond the one that is coming from the town.
This makes me, as a side note, sorry to skip in a little bit, but makes me think of the story of 300 Spartans, that an old goat trail that no one knew about was how the enemy got behind them. So I'm kind of thinking it might be something on that regards. You know, something, little trail made by animals that no one knew about except for those who found it.
Mm. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, throat little indigestion. I apologize for that. I keep drinking some water.
Just, if you need a minute, I can continue on.
Please do for a second.
And what Riffin and Jules are told is that there is a man who lives out at the orchard. Darren Indermath. I couldn't necessarily hear the tail end of his name well enough. I apologize. He lives out in the orchard and might be able to give them a little bit more info about the livestock missing issue. So
Also, he has a D name.
Yes, he does have a D name. So a lot of things that are seeming to point to the livestock issue that we are apparently getting. Meanwhile, during all that, Aura and Galdor, their walk goes fairly uneventful. We check to see, we find out that there's one door along the back way and a couple windows. We go to sit in the church for a little bit. Nothing seems to catch our attention, but we do note that there's an offering box near the door that we came in at. So,
side note, that was Logan, but yeah.
We do note something. After that, the group meets up to discuss another more new info and the plan for the day, and we decide to go to, investigate the mansion a little bit more, see if we can potentially find this other hidden pathway or whatever that they must have used to get up to the manor, and also checking into the livestock issue. And that would be the end of session 13.
Yes. It was definitely a lot more story heavy than I thought it was going to be, but, we got some things cleared up. But on the same note, as I'd mentioned when we were in the bar, that it felt like a tree that was really, really wide. Like, there's so many branches, but we can't even see all the way around the tree yet to figure out where to get started.
Yes,
so, there's a lot of possibilities for where the story's going.
there was a lot of pathways that we were considering, that we were thinking of, and then some that kind of got cut off, some that, apparently led to nowhere. And this episode, it seemed we got a lot more questions that whenever we were trying to find out information on some things, and we ended up with information that we couldn't connect with certain things, or worse yet, information that could connect, but then we didn't know how or why or any of that stuff, and it just led to more and more questions. It was a little bit frustrating, I will admit, because obviously we're just trying to find any sort of answers that could lead to us getting closer to finding out who was the culprit behind this and putting the souls of those who were killed in this mansion to rest. I know that myself, as well as you nobles, came to the conclusion, based on what we heard from the tavern, that if these people had been there for some time, perhaps they made those extra bits in the manor, all those extra little hidden rooms and passageways, or it was the mayor.
Yeah, somebody had access to that place, had to make that, obviously. But, yeah.
I speculated that the mayor must have been involved in some way, shape, or form, at least in that regard, because if it was his place and suddenly the Red Bandits showed up to it, obviously there's something there, either by coercion or some other way that maybe they kind of forced his hand, or maybe he was in their pocket the entire time. Not completely sure on that. I don't want to speculate too much on that, but if it was his place, then maybe he put in those little secret passages and stuff. And either way, it still doesn't throw it still doesn't throw the light off of him potentially being the cause of all of this current issue of the manor and stuff being burnt down, because he still might be involved in whatever group or whatever people were involved with that.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, that indigestion really has been hitting me. So, one thing that I kind of got frustrated with was, I know it's part of the story and how things are going, but, we finally figure out who the third guy is. I mean, I had been trying to figure that out since we first got to the place. It's like, who is the third administrator, councilman of this facility, We finally figured it out, and the first thing that pops up afterwards is the D. Who is this D, and how are they related to the church and everything? It's like, we get one thing answered, and there's another two or three, There's always another story.
Yes, there's a lot of questioning as to, well, how far back did this ex-Griffin rider get stolen? When was his mind broken? Was it broken during his time with the Black Spider? Was it broken afterwards?
And when was he hired, too? Because, I mean, did they hire a crazy guy, or was he of sound mind and body when they hired him?
Yes, there's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of questions as to if these people, if these councilmen were in charge of, keeping track of who was buying land and for what purpose, and the ex-mayor apparently has no memory. That either leads me to think that either A, some spell was used to alter his memory so he didn't remember about this event occurring, or there was no meeting with all of them to have this happen. A third option is that the crazy man isn't necessarily crazy and he's playing everybody. But again, that's just, speculation on my part. Getting into a few other things that were a little bit hiccupy in the game, in my opinion, going back to the 400 gold to remove curse.
Oh, yeah.
I understand that each D&D game has their own set values on and prices on specific things, and removing a curse isn't necessarily the cheapest thing in this world,
Mm-hmm.
but 400 gold does seem a little bit excessive.
Especially since we haven't exactly gotten large sums of money. If this was a game where every time we exit a dungeon we come out with a couple thousand gold or something, yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a problem at all. But I mean, gold's been a little bit hard to come by.
We do get some gold, but
Mm-hmm.
not to the sound of 400. And 400 would, in my opinion, that would drain a lot of our finances from everybody if we all pitched in to help get this removed. It seems very much excessive, and the fact that they're willing to lower the cost for us to investigate the livestock issue was both interesting and made sense. It's very similar to whenever he went into the broken down church prior episode, and she said that it is an expensive spell, but she didn't mention price.
I was going to say,
And
did she say she can get rid of it? I don't remember that. Or did
she
she
said
say
it
I
was
needed to go to that other one?
no, she said it was an expensive spell. She did not mention the price, but she said if you can deal with this other church in a non-fatal way, I can I can help you with this. So I'm wondering if that price is, the overall price, or if this is like the nicer churches charging a little bit more because they're nicer churches.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you go to a burger place and one place will charge you like $3 and another place will charge you 7. And the reason for that is because quote unquote better quality, et cetera, et cetera. Um, it's a bad metaphor example, but
I
it
understand
it
that though.
still holds water. So either way, between that and the archives and a couple other things, it seems like we are being led to
Yeah.
figure out this livestock thing, which
As I
on
was
the
saying before, I
surface,
kind of felt like they're trying to get us out of town. That's why I thought the high price and the go deal with the cows outside of town kind of thing.
yes. On the surface, we all pretty much gathered very quickly that the missing livestock were probably a camp or a group who was eating off of whatever they could snatch in the middle of the night to feed their people.
Mm-hmm.
And if Larry is anything to go on, that they might attack the town, might,
Might sack it for its loot.
yes. The only other thing I can really think of from the session is that whilst we were in discussions about what to do the next day, we were discussing the person who was supposed to be coming down to the town from Waterdeep to talk with us. I'm not exactly sure what goes on there, what they need to discuss with us. It felt from the messages and things we had received from Almond that he didn't necessarily care, that he just wanted, the paperwork and that stuff to be done, and to know what had occurred to cause these people to miss their payment. And so maybe he's sending someone down as far as like the business side of it to verify that yes, the place is burned down. Yes, there are no people who could technically pay the dues that they're, supposed to be paying, and just to let us know that, I don't know, our job here is done. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it's a 3-day travel via walking. So technically, we sent the message out in game time
It's like early
yesterday.
morning, yeah.
Yes, and then we had a new day today, and then next game will be tomorrow. So he might be here tomorrow, or who knows when, depending on his mode of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be interesting. I feel like there's nothing else to gain from the livestock thing other than perhaps where they were taken from, and to note if anyone noticed anything in the middle of the night or anything suspicious. Otherwise, all I see happening is us having to go back up north or whatever direction up on the map to try to investigate this and potentially running into an ogre and
Yes.
his camp of lackeys.
So, something that I thought was more entertaining, to get more onto the lighter side of things, I believe I had a blast on the drinking part of the story. My drinking tie was one of my favorite things. So I had mentioned that Bulga doesn't have a lot of clothes, but he does have a few fancy pieces he has. And he's got his drinking tie, which is a series of beer mugs going down the length of the tie, each one pouring beer into the next one. And, well, we didn't exactly wear it to the place, but, getting to walk with Ariella to the bar and her taking his arm, that probably sent his head into a fluster. I mentioned that he got weak at the knees, like, oh, dear Lord, there's a hot girl holding on my arm. What am I going to do?
Yes, one of my favorite parts was as far as RP stuff that wasn't necessarily based into the storyline itself was Ariella, Aura. She has gained a decent friendship with Bolgan, and to the point where she is starting to pick up a couple of his tells. So she decides to mess with him a little bit in jest, just a tiny, just a hair. So she can be a little bit flirtatious. She can be a little bit,
Yeah, he is
whatnot.
easily flustered. Easily flustered by anything.
So, her holding his arm while they go walking and stuff, certain things, certain conversations and things that they have discussed where he has made her laugh. And I didn't actually say this in character or on the stream, is she tends to hold back certain emotions. She tries to be a little bit more distant with people, especially given her history of not wanting people to praise her or raise her up too high and her wanting to be her own person. Bolgan has obviously broken through some of these, becoming her friend in the short time that they've known each other, to the point where he made a pun or some sort of statement and she laughed.
It was the minor joke, because there's minors in the bar and they're serving alcohol to minors.
Yes, it was a horrible pun, but it still kind of threw Aura for a little bit of a loop, and she laughed. And so that's one of my favorite parts, is the interaction that they were able to have with each other, to be able to, even during all of this tense chaoticism, that they were able to kind of help to ease that stress level.
Mm-hmm. We went through a lot just in the short time we've all been together.
Yes. Sadly, the episode was very split between, the two groups trying to get information, and not all of us going in a place, because we didn't want to we did not want to,
I guess we didn't want to really have too many people asking the same questions, but at the same time we want to get more covered in the amount of time we had. That's the way I'm looking at it. Like, if we're all in the same location, we're all hearing the same information, but we're also not asking more questions to more people to find out more stuff. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, we just didn't want to look suspicious with all four of us going to any given location, and so if we could split up and get the information, it works out best for everybody. So we were able to get a decent amount of information, but sadly, because of that, it kind of hindered group discussion and group interaction. So that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoyed the interaction between Aura and Bolgan as much as I did, because of not being able to have a true camaraderie with the group, and us, being able to do that stuff.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm bringing up that, may not have been known for those who watched the video what my intentions were, but Bolgan had a plan. He thought about it early in the bar when he got his second beer. I also didn't mention the fact that he had, being the gentleman that he was, he paid for both him and Ariella's food and drinks, because, He's still got to look, at least a little impressive. Especially when she bought 2 sets of rounds for everybody in the bar. He had to at least spend some money.
Yeah, I mean,
Wouldn't look very good on him.
it wasn't that expensive. It was like a
Yeah, it
silver
was
a
a couple
pint, which
silvers
is,
or something.
yeah. So I might have spent 1 gold total paying for people's drinks to try to get information, and whether or not that information is useful or pertinent to what's going on now is still very much up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that is frustrating. Now, if we had all gone to the bar, or if we'd all gone to the church, if honestly, I would have loved us all to go to the bar. I think that Jules, it would have been hilarious to see how people reacted to Jules,
Sitting there drinking
and
a beer.
if they would have given her any alcohol, as she does still look very much short and childlike.
Mm-hmm.
Though there are gnomes who have entered this town, so perhaps it's not as uncommon for people that are shorter to gain access to alcohol, but she still does have that childlike look about her.
Oh, yeah.
And that would have been interesting to see her try to butt heads with Grista.
I'm certain we'll eventually get a chance for shenanigans of such a way. But as I was saying, though, Bolgan had a plan. Now, he was told by Riffin that, they need to somehow get the other church out. When we were told originally about the falling down church, I can't remember which one was it. The Church of Luck or something.
I get them confused because you have one that is more so about like luck and good fortune, and the other one which is like they keep telling us, and my mind keeps just trying to merge them, which is horrible, but at the same time they seem to go hand in hand. So I am bad when it comes to that stuff, but
he had a plan because he knew that Griffin had said, Riffin, that is, not Griffin. Riffin had said that, they needed to get that other church out. So this was part of the reason he took the alcohol-soaked rag to kind of give him cover to go back and investigate. But he was also scoping out the inside of the church. Not that it's a wise idea to do this, but if there's no other option, he's thinking a little arson may be, necessary. Now, once again, there could be other ways we can get the church out of there to help out, but this is kind of a last-ditch effort kind of deal.
To me, it's a difficult situation because just because we are under the assumption that the Drawn Enterprises may have paid for the build-up of this church, that doesn't necessarily mean that the people at the church are involved, that the people at the church are shady or anything like that. These could be really, these could be 100% legit girls who are working here who are just trying their darndest to spread the word of their god or goddess. And it's difficult because it's like, what do you do in that situation? Yes, you could destroy the church, but you also have to be careful.
Yeah.
Yes, you also have to be careful of, trying to figure out if these people are involved in some way, shape, or form, if it's just a front or a fence or something. So I feel that as far as...
Did we find out about the 400 gold, though? I can't remember. Did he tell us that it was 400 gold when we met back up?
I don't know. I don't think so. It's difficult because whenever me and you go and discuss with the group what has happened, we just say that we tell them everything. I think we would have to ask Galder directly if he mentioned the 400 gold, because if he did, that does seem shady, very, very shady, and I would definitely want to insight about that because that seems extremely high.
Yeah, so I mean, if 200 is still pretty high, but if we can get it for even lower or free from the other church, Bolgan, looking out for his friends, would try to do anything he could to help them out.
Yes,
and
I did. Aura did discuss with the group that she, feels a connection to the city currently. However, because of all of the events that have been occurring, because of the impression that she's been getting, that she doesn't think that the business is a good mesh for her, and that she would be probably leaving after this issue with the manor is resolved and the people of the that were lost in the fire and those bodies that were underneath the building, who some of them might be recent, some of them might be from 5 years ago, who knows. As soon as they're put to rest, she's probably walking away from all this because she is not handling this well.
Yeah. Bolgan has a lot of trouble with the I guess you say governmentship of the Acquisitions Incorporated as well, particularly how they handle people. Because he's grown up with dwarves. Dwarves are a hearty, joking bunch, you know, making fun of each other, but doing it in a lighthearted manner. These people just don't care. And I guess you could say he's feeling really kind of off-put by the group, and not in our group sense, but in the Acquisitions Incorporated groups. The way they handle things, the way they don't care about their employees. He doesn't want to be a number. And he wanted adventure. He wanted to go around, talk to people, have fun. But he's kind of freaking out, I think, and the idea that if he signs paperwork, he may never get to see his family again if he's sent somewhere else. I mean, for all we know, Acquisition Incorporated say, okay, guys, we need y'all to move to this island over here. Like, but what about our friends and family? Nope, sorry, you signed the paperwork. So he's a little nervous by that idea.
It's good to get an insight on that. I don't believe that Bolgan said anything about it whenever Aura was having her little moment.
Yeah, the episode kind of ended like right after that, but that was kind of where he was, because he has had several conversations with Ack Inc. people and finding out things about how Almond Milk Stormbringer, whatever the hell his name was, handles his people. And the fact that we found out that he's actually a priest, this is something I found out kind of actually not in character, but out of character. I was like, good grief.
The meta, that's the thing. That's the thing where it's difficult. It is very, very difficult to differentiate character knowledge from player knowledge whenever the sessions are as they are. It's hard to differentiate. It's like, okay, so we know that Drawn or potentially Drawn did this, and why would they do this? What does that mean? Well, he's a priest to this other church. What? So in character knowledge is not that, but out of character I know, some things about that, and it's like, but I don't get it. I don't get it. It's a slap in the face to this person and their religion to have this other church pop up. And honestly, I kind of wish that I didn't know that information.
Yeah.
I feel that even if I don't do it consciously, I feel that that's going to subconsciously potentially guide some of my choices. I mean, Aura was going to fix up the church that was getting destroyed anyway, and she was going to try to help build that up so it's better quality and things.
Oh yeah, that's something we had mentioned actually. I think at the very end was we were talking about trying to get some supplies from the mansion when we had gone back up there. See if we can't bring something down to help out with the rebuilding, at least a little bit. A little stonework to carve up or something to help improve the looks of the falling down estate building.
Yeah. And if all else fails, at least try to get started on that, or at least get it so that might have a little bit better, stronger foundation before heading out myself. Something. So, yeah, that, having little bits and pieces of information via meta or non-meta, it throws me a little bit, and I'm trying my damnedest to not have it affect my play of the character. So far, it doesn't seem to necessarily affect anything, as her mind was already made up of certain things. As I said, the church, I don't think that would have changed knowing that Amen was connected to the church. I honestly don't, because just seeing that place run down and dilapidated, and that woman still trying to work hard and have such strong faith, it shows conviction, and it shows Aura that this person is legit a good person and they're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for the sake
Oh
of
yeah.
glory or a name or whatever.
And that's the same for Bolgan, because I mean, this is just a rundown church with a woman who's at her wits' end. He's like, this lady's in trouble. I need to help her. But he has no idea, like I said before, that this is like Allman's brand church. Which, I mean, not that he would find out and be like, I ain't helping him now, kind of thing, but
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that would have any sort of bearing on that. Anything else?
Ooh, there was something I was going to bring up. It was... Oh, the, the outside force. Okay, so... sorry about the throat clearing. It's still a little acid burning from the indigestion I had a minute ago. The troll, we are almost certain is involved.
Ogre.
Ogre, yes, ogre.
Troll is a thing that I would not be. Nope.
Yeah.
I would be leaving, or I would be gone, because level 3 against a troll. No.
It's a sickly
no.
troll. But yeah, so we are looking for its camp, possibly with a small force.
Possibly with
not related to Drawn. I'm not sure.
Possibly with a couple more hobgoblins. There was.
I'm going to assume this is not the group with the armor plating. This is probably the poor group, right?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know if the poor group is connected to Drawn at all. The ones that were in the armor were definitely connected to Drawn. So
yeah,
unless
they
there
had
is
armor plating with markers, so yeah.
Unless there is a third party involved in all of this that we don't have any information on, which if it is, then that'll make it easier on us, because hey, then we don't have to deal with armor-plated hobgoblins with acid guns.
Yeah, or get a little infighting going on, get them to battle each other or something. But that's what my impression was, that maybe that less equipped team was the ogre's team, and that maybe, we're not going to have to worry about coming across Drawn's, hidden forces that are left over from the attack. Because originally that's what I was worried about, that it was Drawn's army, or at least Drawn's attack force that was out there in the wood line.
The thing is that it's been some time. And it was, okay, we got there a few days after the incident occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's been, I'm going to say, almost a week, if not a week now, and they still haven't come in and tried anything.
I mean, the acid team showed up when we were leaving.
Yes, that was the cleanup crew.
They're clearly, maybe the fighting force is gone, but the cleanup crew was there now.
True. But to me, that is extremely suspicious, because you would think after that happened, they would try to come in blazing hot and snatch up any snatch up any land that they could, snatch up any power that they could, potentially intimidate the mayor, or ex-mayor if they could, and nothing. And to me, nothing is bad, because that gives people time to call reinforcements and build up some sort of army, which apparently this town gives less than 2 nickels about any sort of protection for themselves. Because I think we talked about potentially them trying to do something, and Grista was like, they can't defend themselves, and it's like, how are you guys still here then?
Yeah, the golden mongooses are gone. Apparently they had protection from the red what was it, red
bandits.
Red bandits, okay. Before that, so this town has not known, and of course the Acquisitions Incorporated, they have been failures at survival this entire time. They are literally a town of leeches who have to rely on what's the word here, the creature,
being conquered?
No, the name for a creature that relies on other creatures for survival.
Parasite?
Yeah, they're a parasitic organism that relies on a stronger force to survive off of. Without the red bandits, without the Acquisitions Incorporated, without the golden mongooses, they have nothing. They don't have a town militia. The only people in town that seem to have any fighting stance whatsoever is the guards to the shop.
The lion's shield.
Yeah. And technically you could say, oh, well, the miners are all... No, the miners can swing a pickaxe. But when you get something with, fireball throwing, they're not going to be too good against that.
Yeah, if shit goes down, excuse my language, but if it goes down, then the only thing that this town can do, apparently, is maybe go to the mines and hold up and hope to goodness gracious that, they're not going to be found out. Because apparently there's only one way out of town, and then the back way is mountains and stuff that leads into the mines. So this is a dead-end town, and I would not be comfortable. I would not be comfortable living here.
That is something that we forgot to bring up. We found out about the old mine. You remember the information that was being brought up in the
right,
archive finding?
right.
I forgot all about that.
Jules discovered that there was some sort of connection with an old mine, and that's how the Black Spider was able to get a hold of the eccentric man and his friend. Though we have no idea where exactly that old mine was or how it was connected to anything. It wasn't in town. It wasn't connected to the town as far as they know. So again, information that is like its own little bubble that we're not sure how it connects to currently.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of kind of background lore to how the guy got captured. I forgot all about that. I'm just glad we mentioned the back doors and stuff. I'm like, oh right, triggered my head. But yeah, also the town apparently is a iron ore town. That's their primary, I guess, source of income for the village. Which once again, just kind of a little background flavor info about how the town operates.
Yeah. I know that me and you were discussing the potential of them not announcing all of what they managed to find in the mines. That way they could have some sort of ability to sell the stuff and make more profit than what they were potentially getting from the mayor.
Little black market sales here and there, because once again they mentioned that the Red Bandits paid them better than the current administration.
Yes, but the only hiccup there is that if there's no horses here, if there's no stable in this town, then that would make it hard to get anybody out with supplies and things for selling without being immediately noticed. So there are a lot of things about this town that I find very suspicious. Out of character, I find extremely suspicious. In character, I don't think Aura has picked up on some of them yet. So that is the other thing, is me trying to keep separate my personal views and thoughts on things from the stuff that Aura knows.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you can think of that we might have missed during our recap here?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Riffin did really, really well in sweet talking the mayor to try to get that information. It surprised the heck out of me hearing that the mayor was at the archives for some reason, and he apologized. Though the part Riffin and Jule did insights on him, and they don't really believe what the hell he was saying as far as that apology.
I was surprised the archives weren't part of the building that burned down as well.
That did strike me as curious, considering how it seemed like we were told about things, but that's neither here nor there. Riffin did extremely well with that. He did really, really well with persuasion to get that information, and hopefully all of that information does come to light or does have some sort of connect that we can use. Regardless, I do appreciate the fact that he was able to get away with that and such. I was kind of thrown for a loop for a minute whenever I heard him discussing these things, especially after the Lionsgate foreman, I have no clue what to call her, told us don't trust the mayor. And then later into his buttering up, later into his talking to the mayor, I realized, oh, that's what he is doing. So again, I think that went very well, and I applaud his genius for thinking ahead like that and just trying to play to the mayor's ego.
Yeah. Because even if he is involved in shady things, if he ends up thinking we're on his side, he may not be as tight-lipped normally as he would have been.
Yes, he might just be so full of himself that he thinks, well, of course they like me, so who knows?
Oh, a little bit of fun flavor. If I remember correctly, the sign for the bar we went to, what was it, Sleeping Giant Inn or something like that?
No, it wasn't an inn, it was just a tavern.
Tavern. It was, I want to say it was a lounging giant, like, the way it was described, I imagined it being like, draw me like one of your French girls kind of thing, laid
Oh,
out.
gee.
This giant laid out on the ground.
But yeah, I think that's it for now. That's all I can think
Yeah,
of as
me
far
too.
as recap, as far as my own thoughts on it. As I said, I wish that we could have had more group interaction, but sometimes that's the draw, is if you're trying to get information, you don't have time for that group interaction and
Mm-hmm.
camaraderie and stuff. So you don't get to see Jules just saying, buffoon, go do this, and
Give me another
that stuff.
beer.
That would have been amazing.
I just picture a tiny green hand over the corner of the counter, like, give me beer, give me beer. And her looking, the little dwarf trying to look over the other side, like, who is that?
Are you sure you're okay, Jules? You look more green than usual. Anyway, yeah, I think that covers it on my end.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, thank you all for stopping by and listening to us rant on about the last game. Hopefully you're enjoying this because we're having a little bit of fun doing the recaps while everything's still fresh in the brain.
And if everything goes as what I am suspecting, there's going to be fighting in the next session somehow, some way. So, yeah, be
Woohoo!
prepared for that.
All right, so thank you for joining me, Mrs. Hydrate.
Thank you for having me.
And I appreciate y'all for stopping by. Make sure to stop by our stream channels as well as our D&D game if you haven't done so already. And I appreciate you stopping by. So until the next episode, be safe,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.